Part 1. The Little Rabbit of Whispering Woods. Once upon a time, in the heart of the Whispering Woods, lived a small gray rabbit named Ramai. Ramai wasn't like the other rabbits. While most were swift and brave, darting through the forest like the wind, Ramai was quiet, thoughtful, and curious about everything that moved, breathed, or glowed. He loved watching the rippling patterns on the pond, listening to the hum of bees, and tracing the trails of ants on the ground. But as the air began to chill and the leaves turned golden, a new sound filled the forest, the whispers of winter. All the animals were busy preparing. The squirrels stored nuts, the hedgehogs gathered leaves for warm nests, and even the birds chirped goodbye before flying south. But Ramai just stood by a tree, shivering slightly, wondering, where do I go when the snow comes? Part 2. The Fear of Cold. Ramai had never liked the cold. The first time he saw snow as a baby, he had tried to taste it and sneezed so loudly that every bird flew away in alarm. Since then, winter had always felt unfriendly. One evening, he visited his friend, Tobin the Badger, who was busy piling up dry grass in his burrow. "Winter's coming," Tobin grunted. "You better dig yourself a den, Ramai." "I don't know how," Ramai admitted, "and I don't want to sleep all winter. I'll miss everything." Tobin chuckled. "There isn't anything to miss, lad. The forest sleeps. That's how we survive." But Ramai wasn't convinced. He didn't want to sleep. He wanted to see what the forest looked like under snow, how it felt to live through the cold. Still, when the wind howled that night, he couldn't stop trembling. Part 3. The Owl of the Silver Branch. The next night, while Ramai sat beneath a bare oak, he heard a soft woo, woo above. An enormous silver-feathered owl landed on a branch, eyes glowing like two tiny moons. "Why do you tremble, little one?" she asked. "I'm afraid of the winter," said Ramai. "I don't want to freeze or fall asleep forever." The owl tilted her head. "Winter isn't the enemy. It's only the earth dreaming. You must learn to dream with it." "But how?" Ramai whispered. "Close your eyes," the owl said, "and follow the warmth inside you. There, you will find a fire that no snow can touch." And before Ramai could answer, the owl spread her wings and disappeared into the mist. Part 4. The First Snowfall. The next morning, Ramai woke to silence. Snow had fallen soft, thick, and white. The forest looked like a dream. Every branch wore a crown of frost. Every sound was muffled. Ramai tried to hop, but the snow reached his belly. He laughed, then sneezed, then laughed again. For a while, he forgot his fear. But by evening, his whiskers were stiff with ice. His paws ached. His breath made clouds in the air. He tried to find shelter, but all the burrows were full, all the dens closed. Finally, he crawled beneath a hollow tree trunk. "I'll just rest a little," he whispered. "Just until the sun comes up." The snow fell quietly, covering him like a blanket. Part 5. The Dream of Firelight. Ramai's eyelids grew heavy. As he drifted off, he saw a light, a golden fire burning inside a crystal cave. Around it danced animals he had never seen before. Foxes with wings, deer made of starlight, and birds whose songs melted icicles. "Come closer," said the silver owl, appearing again in his dream. "This is the fire of life, the warmth that keeps the forest breathing. Sleep beside it, little one. Let winter pass through you, not around you." Ramai lay down by the fire. The warmth sank deep into his fur, into his bones, into his heart. The world faded into a deep, peaceful sleep. Outside, the snow kept falling. The forest froze. But deep within the hollow tree, a tiny rabbit dreamed and dreamed and dreamed. Part 6, The Awakening. When Ramai opened his eyes, the world was green again. The air smelled of flowers and rain. The tree above him had sprouted new leaves. Birds were singing. He blinked in confusion. How long have I been sleeping? He hopped out of the hollow, his legs weak but steady. The snow was gone. The sun felt warm. Everything looked familiar, yet somehow strange. The moss was brighter, the trees taller, and the forest sounded different, like it was whispering a new song he didn't recognize. Part 7, A Changed Forest. Ramai wandered for hours, calling out for his friends, Tobin, Hazel, Pip, but no one answered. The burrows were empty, the nests rebuilt in different shapes. Even the paths he once knew seemed to twist in new directions. At last, he reached his home, or what used to be his home. A family of foxes had taken over the burrow, playing outside with tiny cubs tumbling in the grass. Ramai froze. "This can't be," he whispered. "I was only sleeping." But the fox mother looked at him kindly. "You've been gone for a long time, little rabbit. Seasons have changed. The old forest isn't the same anymore." Ramai's heart sank. He had slept through winter, and perhaps much more. Part 8, The Lonely Meadow. Days passed. Ramai tried to make new friends, but the other animals didn't know him. They spoke of things he'd never heard of: new kings of the forest, new paths, new storms that had come and gone. He realized that while he slept, time had flowed like a river, carrying away everything he knew, and he was stranded on the far shore. That night, sitting in a lonely meadow under the stars, he whispered, "Owl of the silver branch, what have you done to me?" But no answer came, only the wind, soft and sad. Part 9, The Song by the River. One morning, Ramai followed a sound, a low, musical hum coming from the river. There, on a smooth stone, sat a tiny green frog with a golden throat, singing to herself. "Who are you?" asked Ramai. The frog smiled. "My name's Leela, and you must be the rabbit who slept through winter." Ramai's eyes widened. "You know about me." "Everyone does," said Leela. "The forest still whispers your story. You slept while magic walked the land. And when the snow melted, time shifted." "Time shifted?" Ramai asked. "Yes, you didn't just sleep through winter. You slept past it." Part 10, the journey begins. Leela looked at him with serious eyes. If you want to understand what happened, you must travel with me down the river. There are places where the truth still lives, hidden in echoes and stones. Ramai hesitated. He had never left his forest before, but he had already lost everything he knew. Maybe the answers lay ahead. All right, he said softly. Let's go. The frog leapt into the river. Ramai jumped after her, landing on a floating log. The current caught them, carrying them toward the horizon. As the forest drifted behind them, Ramai looked back one last time and whispered, "Goodbye, old home. I'll find the dream you left for me." The journey had begun. Part 11. The Wise Turtle by the Willow Bank. The river carried Ramai and Leela through the deep woods, where sunlight broke into silver shards upon the water. On the third day, they drifted to a calm bend, where an enormous willow tree dipped its fingers into the current. There, on a smooth rock beneath the willow, sat an ancient turtle, his shell covered with moss and tiny flowers. Leela bowed. "Master Taro," she croaked, "we seek the truth about time and the winter that changed the forest." The turtle opened one lazy eye. "Ah, the sleeper wakes," he murmured, looking at Ramai. "I felt the silence of your dream ripple through the river." "You know about my sleep?" Ramai asked eagerly. "Child," said Taro, "I have lived through 1,000 winters. I've seen forests rise and fall. Time moves like water, slow above, swift below. You were caught in the deep current." Ramai frowned. "Can I swim back to my old world?" The turtle sighed. "No one swims against the river, but you can follow it to where all time begins." He pointed downstream. "The answers lie in the valley of stillness. But beware, not all that sleeps can wake." Part 12. Night on the river. That night, they camped beside a cluster of glowing reeds. Fireflies danced above the water like floating stars. Ramai couldn't sleep. He watched the moon reflected on the surface and whispered, "What if I never find my friends again, Leela?" The frog looked at him gently. "Maybe you'll find them in new forms. The forest changes, but the spirit of things never dies. Sometimes friends return as echoes, as songs, as dreams." Ramai nodded slowly. He didn't fully understand, but her words sank deep into his heart, like seeds waiting for spring. Part 13. The Forest of Glass Leaves. The next morning, they reached a strange forest. Every leaf shimmered like glass. When the wind blew, the trees chimed like crystal bells. Ramai's reflection rippled in every branch. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "It's dangerous," said Leela. "One wrong sound and the glass will break, and with it, the memories trapped inside." Ramai didn't understand until he saw faint shapes within the glass. Faces. Smiling squirrels, running foxes, flying birds frozen mid-motion, like the forest itself had captured moments of time. "This place remembers," Leela said softly. "It holds everything the world forgets." Ramai touched a branch, and suddenly he saw his younger self, hopping through the snow, chasing butterflies that weren't really there. He gasped, "This is my memory." The glass trembled. Leela leapt to him. "Don't, the past is fragile." They hurried away before the trees could shatter under the weight of old echoes. Part 14. The Bridge of Forgotten Songs. By dusk, they came upon an old bridge made of woven roots. Beneath it, the water glowed faintly, humming with low music. Ramai paused. "What's that sound?" Leela's eyes widened. "Those are the songs that time forgot. Every wish, every promise, every lullaby that no one remembers, they end up here." Ramai leaned closer. The current whispered, "Sleep, little one, sleep through the storm." He shivered. "That's my mother's voice." Leela looked away. "Don't listen too long. The river tempts wanderers with memories. If you follow them, you'll never return." Ramai stepped back, heart aching. He wanted to dive in, to hold onto that voice. But instead, he whispered, "Goodbye, Mama," and crossed the bridge with trembling paws. Part 15. The Shadow Beneath the Water. The current grew darker as they floated on. Suddenly, the water beneath them rippled unnaturally, and something vast moved below. "Leela," Ramai whispered, "something following us." Before she could answer, a booming voice rose from the depths. "Who trespasses in the kingdom of the River King?" A giant fish emerged, scales like bronze shields, eyes glowing amber. His fins churned the river into whirlpools. "We mean no harm," Leela cried. "We only seek the valley of stillness." "No one passes my waters," thundered the fish, "without paying the toll of time." "What do you mean?" Ramai asked. "You've stolen years from the river," growled the Fish King. "While you slept, the forest aged. You owe me what was lost." Ramai's heart pounded. "I didn't mean to." "Intent does not change the current," the Fish King bellowed, raising a massive wave. Part 16. The Toll of Time. The wave crashed, sweeping the log sideways. Ramai held onto Leela, who shouted, "Ramai." The ring on his fin, "Grab it." As the Fish King lunged again, Ramai leapt, landing on the creature's scaly head. He saw the glowing ring, made of water and light, spinning around one fin. He bit it. It dissolved instantly, and the river grew calm. The Fish King stopped. His voice softened. "You broke my curse, little one." "What curse?" Ramai gasped. "I was bound by the greed of time, forced to guard the river against all dreamers. But your courage freed me." The Fish King bowed low, water shimmering around him. "Follow the current east. The valley of stillness awaits. And remember, time bends for those who are brave enough to dream." Then he vanished beneath the surface, leaving behind a single glowing scale. Leela caught it and tucked it into Ramai's fur. "For light in the dark," she said. Part 17. The Mirror Lake. After 2 more days, they reached a silent lake so still it reflected the sky perfectly. It was impossible to tell where the world ended and the reflection began. "This is it," Leela whispered. "The entrance to the valley." Ramai peered into the water and saw two of himself, one awake, one asleep. The sleeping one is the dream you left behind, said a voice. The silver owl appeared once more, wings gleaming like frost. You, Remy breathed, you're real. Real and not real, said the owl. I exist where dreams and time meet. What am I supposed to do? He asked. Step into your reflection, she said. But beware, not all who enter return. Part 18, The Valley of Stillness. Remy hesitated, then stepped forward. The water didn't ripple, it simply accepted him. He fell through it like air and landed on grass, so soft it glowed. He looked around. Everything was silent, perfectly frozen. Trees mid-bloom, butterflies mid-flight, rivers mid-splash. Even sound itself seemed trapped. This is the Valley of Stillness, said Leela, her voice echoing strangely. Where time sleeps. Then Remy saw them, his friends, the ones he thought lost. Tobin the badger, Hazel the squirrel, Pip the bird. All turned to stone mid-motion, eyes open but lifeless. Remy's heart cracked. What happened to them? The winter that took you, Leela whispered. It froze more than snow. It froze time itself. Part 19, The Clock of Summer Sleep. In the center of the valley stood an enormous clock made of vines and sunlight. Its hands were still. Its face was cracked. That is the clock of seasons, said Leela. When it stopped, the world forgot how to move forward. To restart it, someone must give up their dream. Remy trembled. Give up my dream. Yes, the dream that kept you alive through winter. The warmth, the fire, the peace. You must let it go. He looked at the statues of his friends. He had dreamed to survive. But now, to wake them, he had to stop dreaming. Slowly, he stepped toward the clock. Part 20, The Choice of the Dreamer. The silver owl appeared again, hovering above the clock. You can turn it once, she said softly. But the cost will be your eternal rest. You will never dream again. Remy looked around, at the frozen smiles of his friends, at Leela trembling beside him. I don't need to dream anymore, he whispered. I've already lived one beautiful dream. He placed his paw on the clock's center and pushed. A deep chime rang out, one note that shook the world. Light burst from the cracks, racing through the trees, melting the frost of eternity. The Valley of Stillness began to move again. Remy fell to his knees, exhausted. The owl looked down at him. You've done it, little rabbit. But the river of time flows onward. Your journey is not yet over. As the valley awakened, the wind carried a whisper. The first heartbeat of a new world. Part 21, The Forest Awakes. The air shimmered like dawn after 1,000 nights. As the great clock's chime faded, life began to return to the valley. Flowers lifted their heads, birds stretched their wings, and rivers sang again. One by one, the statues of Remy's friends began to move. Hazel blinked first, then Tobin rubbed his eyes, confused. Remy, he whispered, where have you been? You look older. Remy smiled through tears. I've been dreaming, I think. But something felt strange. Though everyone was moving, the sky above them was not. It hung perfectly still, painted in unmoving colors. Leela frowned. This isn't the real world yet. We've only awakened the outer shell. Ramai looked up. Then, where is the real world? The frog pointed toward the horizon, where golden mountains floated in the air. Beyond those peaks lies the eagle's summit. That's where the true timekeeper dwells. Part 22. The Road of Golden Dust. They began their climb at dawn. The ground sparkled beneath their feet. Every step left behind a faint golden print. As they walked, the air grew thinner, the wind colder. Ramai felt lighter, as if he were walking in a dream again. Why does it feel like we're floating? He asked. Leela croaked softly. Because we're walking through time now, not in it. The path twisted like a ribbon, leading them past floating stones, whispering clouds, and echoes of moments long gone. Laughter, storms, lullabies. It was as though the sky itself was remembering. When they stopped to rest, Leela gazed ahead with worry. The eagle will test your heart, Ramai. He sees through truth and lies alike. Whatever fear you've hidden will take form before you reach him. Ramai's fur bristled. I've faced the cold, I've faced the river, I've lost everything. What more is there to fear? But somewhere deep inside, a small voice answered, to lose yourself. Part 23. The Storm of Voices. Halfway up the mountain, the air began to hum. The sky darkened into violet clouds. And then the voices came, hundreds of them, whispering from the wind. Why did you sleep, Ramai? You abandoned us. You let time slip away. Ramai covered his ears, trembling. Stop it. The wind turned into a gale. Shadows formed, outlines of all the creatures he'd ever loved. Hazel, Tobin, even his mother, all scolding, accusing, fatting into smoke. It's not real, cried Leela. They're echoes, the ghosts of your guilt. But Ramai couldn't breathe. I didn't mean to. I only wanted to live. Then suddenly, the silver owl's voice cut through the chaos. Face them, little rabbit. You cannot awaken the world while your heart sleeps. Ramai closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered, I forgive myself. The storm broke. The shadows dissolved like mist under sunlight. When he opened his eyes, the path ahead was clear again. Part 24. The Gate of Feathers. They reached a plateau where two enormous feathers stood upright like silver pillars. Between them shimmered a gate made of pure light. This is the threshold, Leela said softly. Beyond it lies the realm of the eagle. Will you come with me? Ramai asked. She shook her head. I can't. My journey ends where yours begins. I was sent to guide you, not to follow. Ramai felt his chest tighten. You've been my only friend. Leela smiled. Then remember, friendship is like the river. Even when it bends out of sight, it still flows toward the same sea. She touched his paw, then leapt into the wind, disappearing among the clouds. Ramai stood alone before the gate. He took one final breath, and stepped through the light. Part 25. The Eagle of the Dawn. The world on the other side was made of sky. Clouds shaped like mountains drifted below. The sun blazed above, eternal and unmoving. And there, perched upon a pillar of gold, sat the Eagle of the Dawn, enormous, radiant, his feathers burning like morning itself. So boomed the eagle, the dreamer arrives. Ramai bowed. Great eagle, I seek to restore time, to make the forest live again. The eagle's eyes gleamed. To do that, you must prove that you understand time's nature. I've lived it, said Ramai. I lost it. Isn't that enough? The eagle spread his wings, casting shadows across the clouds. Then face the trial of reflection. See what you are without your dream. Part 26. The Trial of Reflection. A pool appeared at Ramai's feet, perfectly clear, reflecting both him and the sky. But his reflection wasn't calm. It smiled mockingly. You think you've learned, it said. You only stumbled forward by luck. You wanted warmth, and you found it in sleep. That's not true, Ramai whispered. You still hide, the reflection hissed. You fear being forgotten. You fear the cold truth that the world moved on without you. Ramai stepped back. The reflection climbed out of the pool, becoming a shadow made of frost. It circled him, whispering, Sleep again, little rabbit. The dream is easier. For a moment, Ramai almost believed it. The thought of resting again, of warmth and peace, was tempting. But then he remembered Leela's words. The spirit of things never dies. He faced the shadow and said, I don't need the dream anymore. I am awake, even if the world forgets me. The shadow screamed and shattered like ice under sunlight. Part 27. The Gift of the Eagle. The eagle watched in silence, then spoke. You have faced yourself and not turned away. Few ever do. He lifted one golden feather from his wing and placed it before Ramai. This is the feather of dawn. With it, you may light the world anew. But remember, light must always cast a shadow. Ramai held the feather, feeling warmth surge through his chest. What should I do with it? Return to the forest, said the eagle. There you will find the final gate, where the owl waits for her pupil. The world began to tremble. The sky cracked open like an egg, revealing a spiral of light. Go, thundered the eagle, before the sun sets again. Part 28. The Descent Through Dreams. Ramai leapt into the spiral. He fell not through space, but through memories. He saw everything he had lived. The snow, the hollow tree, the dream fire, the river, the fish, the valley. And beneath it all, he saw something new. The owl whispering spells over his sleeping form. She had protected him, but she had also bound him. You made me sleep, he whispered as he fell. But why? Then he heard her voice, gentle and sad, to teach you that time cannot be fought, only understood. Part 29. The Return to Whispering Woods. When he awoke, Ramai was back in the forest. But it was neither the old forest nor the dream one. This was something new, reborn. Flowers bloomed in patterns he'd never seen. The air shimmered with both summer and winter scents. And there, on a low branch, perched the silver owl. "You've come far, little rabbit," she said. "You've walked through dreams and time alike." "You used me," Ramai said quietly. "You made me sleep." "I gave you rest when you feared the cold," she replied. "And through that rest, you learned that endings are beginnings in disguise." Ramai's eyes filled with tears. "Then what am I now? Awake or dreaming?" The owl smiled. "Both. For those who understand time, there is no difference." Part 30, The Fire Within. The owl lifted her wings. "Now, return what was given." Ramai took the feather of dawn and placed it against his heart. It glowed brighter, hotter, until his entire body shimmered with golden light. The trees swayed. The earth hummed. The forest breathed as if for the first time. "You are the fire of life now," said the owl. "The warmth you sought was never outside you. It lived in your courage." Ramai felt the light spread outward, melting frost from every root and leaf. Somewhere he heard Leela's voice echo softly. "The river flows on, my friend." When the light faded, the owl was gone. Only a single silver feather remained. Ramai picked it up and whispered, "Then I'll keep your dream alive in waking." The sun rose fully for the first true morning since the long winter. The rabbit stood beneath it, eyes closed at peace, no longer afraid of sleep or time or change. Part 31, Beyond the Frozen Door. Ramai stepped through the mist and into a world of silver light. The air was still, the sky pale as moonstone. Every tree glowed faintly, as if dusted with frost, even though it wasn't cold. Lily hopped beside him, her skin shimmering under the glow. "Where are we?" she whispered. "I think," Ramai said slowly, "this is beyond time." Before them stood a massive door of ice, carved with shifting runes that shimmered like starlight. On its surface were engraved countless scenes: seasons blooming and fatting, animals sleeping and waking, and the cycle of life itself. As Ramai touched it, the door rippled like water. A voice echoed inside his mind. "Time is not a river you travel upon, little one. Time is a circle, and you have stepped outside it." The ice began to melt beneath his paw. The door opened, and blinding light spilled forth. Part 32, The Garden of Lost Seasons. When the light faded, they found themselves in a vast valley where all 4 seasons lived together. Spring blossoms danced beside autumn leaves. Summer birds sang over frozen ponds. It was breathtaking and impossible. "This place," Lily gasped. "It shouldn't exist." "This," said a familiar voice, "is where time hides what it cannot bear to lose." From behind a frost-covered willow tree emerged the owl, the same one who had spoken to Ramai before his long sleep. But now she was older, feathers glowing silver, eyes deep as galaxies. "Owl," Ramai cried, "you told me to dream through the winter." The owl nodded slowly. "And you did, but dreams are never without consequence." Part 33, the truth about the dream. The owl spread her wings, and time itself seemed to stop. The air shimmered with visions of Ramai's burrow covered in snow, of animals hibernating peacefully, and of himself sleeping beneath a warm blue glow. "You didn't just sleep, Ramai," she said softly. "You crossed the veil of seasons. While others dreamed of warmth, you dreamed of forever. That dream pulled you out of time. So the forest changed because of me. Yes, the forest continued, but you were gone from its rhythm. Now, to restore balance, you must return what you took, the silence of winter." Ramai looked confused. "How can silence be returned?" "By listening," said the owl. "Truly listening to every heartbeat of the world." Part 34. The Song of Stillness. For the first time, Ramai did not move or speak. He sat on the cool ground, ears twitching softly. He listened, really listened. He heard the hum of roots, drinking water deep below. He heard the gentle sigh of snowflakes melting on petals. He heard Lily's small heartbeat, steady, alive. And beneath it all, a faint echo of himself, sleeping under layers of memory. He realized what the owl meant. Silence was not absence. Silence was connection. When he opened his eyes, the garden of lost seasons glowed brighter. The air vibrated softly, as if the whole world had exhaled after a long time. Part 35. The Frozen Statues. The valley was utterly silent. No birdsong, no rustle of wind through the leaves, only the quiet hum of stillness. Ramai and Lily walked slowly across a wide meadow of pale grass, their steps muffled by a strange, soft frost that didn't melt even in sunlight. At first, Ramai thought the meadow was filled with stones. Then he looked closer and froze. They weren't stones. They were animals, dozens of them, rabbits, foxes, deer, owls, hedgehogs, all standing perfectly still mid-motion, as if time had paused halfway through their lives. A squirrel was caught mid-leap, a robin mid-song, a doe mid-turn. Their faces were peaceful but lifeless, eyes glazed with frost. Ramai's heart clenched. No, it can't be. He ran to a small figure, half buried in ice, another rabbit, one he knew well. Its little ears were tipped with white. He touched the cold fur and whispered, "Milo." Lily's voice trembled. "They're frozen, but not dead." "How do you know?" Ramai asked, voice barely holding steady. "Because the air still listens," Lily said softly. "Life is still breathing here. It's just asleep." Ramai looked around helplessly. "What did I do, Lily? Did I cause this? Was it because I slept through the winter?" The frog took his paw gently. "Maybe it's not about blame. Maybe it's about understanding." But Ramai couldn't shake the guilt. These were his friends, his forest, the world he'd loved and longed for, now trapped in eternal stillness. The silence pressed on him like snow. And then, from behind a curtain of willow branches, a faint voice spoke. "You cannot wake the sleeping by shouting, little one. You must sing to them in the language of stillness. It was the owl. Her feathers glowed like silver mist, and her eyes burned with ancient calm. Ramai turned to her, desperate. "Owl, tell me how to save them." The owl tilted her head slowly. "You must awaken the summer sleep. It is the only force that can unbind them from frozen time." "Summer sleep?" Lily asked. "That sounds impossible. How can sleep awaken anyone?" The owl gave a small smile. "Because true rest is not silence, it is renewal. The summer sleep is the deepest rest, where life forgets its pain and remembers its purpose." Ramai stared at her. "Where do I find it?" The owl looked toward the far end of the valley, where golden light shimmered faintly behind the trees. "Follow the path where all seasons meet. There lies the heart of time, the sundial of seasons. That is where your journey ends, and the world's heartbeat begins again." Part 36. The Path of Seasons. Ramai and Lily began walking toward the golden light. The air around them shifted as they moved, each step carrying them through a different season. First came spring. Soft rain fell from a sky of pearl, and flowers bloomed where they stepped. Ramai breathed in the scent of lilac and wet earth. Then summer, warm, honey-colored sunlight poured over the land. Crickets sang, and the air was thick with the hum of life. Next, autumn leaves drifted down like whispers, the ground glowing with orange and gold. Finally, winter, a sudden hush, cool wind, and soft white flakes swirling in the air. They had crossed the circle of the world. At the center of it all stood a massive stone sundial, ancient and cracked, covered in vines and frost. Its shadow did not move, and beside it, glowing faintly, rested a great hourglass. Inside, the sand shimmered with light, falling endlessly from one side to the other, never emptying. Ramai stepped closer. The air here was strange, heavy yet peaceful. He felt both awake and dreaming. "The summer sleep," he whispered. "It's here." Lily hopped onto the base of the sundial. "What do we do?" Before Ramai could answer, the owl appeared once again, wings folding like curtains of moonlight. "You cannot command it," she said. "You must surrender to it. To awaken the world, you must fall into the deepest sleep of all, the one where self and season become one." Ramai's breath caught. "Sleep again." "Yes," said the owl gently, "but this time, not out of fear, out of trust." Part 37. The Dream of All Things. The owl sang softly, a haunting melody that filled the air with color and memory. Ramai felt his body grow light, as if the earth itself was breathing beneath him. He lay down beside the hourglass, its glow wrapping around him like warm sunlight. Lily stayed close, eyes full of tears. "Will you wake again?" Ramai smiled faintly. "If I do, wake me with laughter." Then his eyes closed, and the world shifted. He fell not downward, but inward through layers of sound and silence. He dreamed of rivers whispering his name. He dreamed of snow melting into springs, of buds opening into bloom, of sunsets that never truly ended. He dreamed of every friend he had ever loved, every heartbeat he had ever heard. He dreamed of the forest itself, alive, vast, and breathing. And in that endless dream, he finally understood what the owl meant. To sleep is not to vanish. It is to become one with the rhythm that never ends. His heart slowed. The hourglass shone bright. Time itself sighed. And then everything went still. Part 38, The Awakening. Light poured through the trees. A gentle wind brushed against the leaves, carrying the scent of morning dew and wildflowers. Ramai's eyes opened. Warm sunlight bathed his fur. He blinked and gasped. The statues were gone. The animals were moving. Birds fluttered between branches. Rabbits hopped through tall grass. Foxes played near the stream. The forest was alive again, filled with laughter, music, and motion. Lily croaked joyfully beside him. Ramai, you did it. Ramai stood slowly, his legs trembling. Around him, creatures he'd thought lost forever were embracing one another, blinking at the light like newborns. A group of young rabbits ran to him, Milo among them, shouting, Ramai, we thought you were gone. He smiled weakly, eyes glistening. So did I. And above, the owl circled once through the morning sky, her silver feathers scattering light like falling stars. Part 39, The Festival of Season. That night, the forest gathered in celebration beneath the great oak. Lanterns made of hollow nuts and glowing fireflies hung from every branch. Music echoed through the glades, chirps, croaks, howls, and hums, blending into one great song of joy. Ramai sat quietly at the edge of the clearing, watching everyone dance. Milo leapt and twirled. Lily sang a melody that made the trees sway. Why aren't you dancing? She asked, hopping to his side. Ramai smiled softly. Because I'm listening. To what? To life, he said. It's louder than any song. And indeed, when he closed his eyes, he could hear it. The heartbeat of every creature, every leaf, every drop of dew. A single rhythm, perfect and whole. Owl Part 40, The Owl's Farewell. Later, when the celebration quieted, Ramai wandered away toward the hilltop. There, under the starlit sky, he found the owl waiting. Her wings now almost translucent, her eyes full of light. You're leaving, aren't you? Ramai asked. The owl nodded. My work here is done. Time moves again, and you have learned its song. I'll miss you, he whispered. And I you, little dreamer. But remember, I am not gone. Every rustle of leaves, every hush before dawn, I am there. Time is only the echo of your own heartbeat. As she spoke, her body shimmered, turning to silver dust that rose into the sky like drifting stars. Ramai watched until the last light vanished. Then he whispered, Good night, owl. Part 41, The Journey Home. The morning after the owl's farewell, a hush hung over the forest, not of sadness, but of peace. Mist curled lazily through the branches, glowing golden where sunlight touched it. The air smelled of pine and damp moss, as if the earth itself had just awakened from a long and gentle dream. Ramai stood at the edge of the valley, gazing toward the distant woods that had once been his home. He could almost see his old burrow in his mind, the curved tunnel under the oak roots, the nest of dried grass, the tiny pebble he used to keep by the entrance because it looked like a sleeping moon. Lily perched on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" she asked. Ramai nodded slowly. More than ever, they began their journey back. The path wound through fields of tall grass that rippled like waves under the breeze. Now and then, they passed animals Ramai recognized. The deer who once guided him to water, the hedgehog who'd shared berries on cold nights, the fox cub who'd once stolen his carrots. Each of them stopped, eyes bright with surprise and joy. "Ramai, you're back," they cried. He would smile and nod, too full of emotion to speak. For him, every greeting was a heartbeat of memory returning home. By dusk, the forest canopy thickened again, and there, nestled between two old oaks, Ramai saw the place he had dreamed of for so long. His burrow. But it wasn't empty. Smoke curled faintly from the small chimney above the hill. The scent of stew drifted through the air. Ramai blinked. Someone's living here. Lily's eyes widened. "Do we knock?" Ramai laughed softly. "It's my home. Of course we knock." He took a deep breath and tapped on the small wooden door. It creaked open, and out stepped a young fox, her fur the color of autumn leaves. Behind her, two tiny kits peeked shyly from behind her legs. "Oh," she gasped, "you must be the rabbit from the stories." Ramai tilted his head. "Stories?" "Yes," she said quickly. "My grandmother used to tell us about a rabbit who slept through the longest winter and dreamed the forest awake again. We didn't think you were real." Ramai chuckled softly. "I wasn't sure myself." The fox smiled, ears twitching. "This burrow been our home since last frost. But if it was yours..." Ramai shook his head gently. "No, it is your home now. Homes aren't lost when shared." The little fox kits giggled, tugging at his paw. "Will you stay for supper?" Ramai smiled. "I'd be honored." That night, for the first time in what felt like forever, Ramai sat by a fire again. He shared stories, laughed with the fox family, and felt warmth seep back into the corners of his heart. Part 42, The Forest Council. News of Ramai's return spread quickly. Within days, animals from every corner of the forest gathered in the clearing under the great oak. The shrew brought acorns. The badger rolled in honeycombs. The birds lined the branches like jewels of sound. Even the wind seemed to hush, waiting for him to speak. Ramai stood before them, small, humble, but steady. "I slept through winter," he began softly, "because I was afraid. I thought if I could escape the cold, I could escape time. But sleep doesn't stop the seasons, it carries them forward. I dreamed of warmth, and when I woke, I found that the world had moved on without me. But I also learned that silence isn't emptiness. It's the space where life breathes between moments. The animals listened, wide-eyed. So now, Ramai said, his voice stronger, as another winter comes, don't fear the quiet. Don't rush through it. Rest is not the end of things. It's how the forest remembers itself. There was silence, and then applause, soft and sincere. The woodpeckers drummed on trees. The frogs croaked in rhythm. The wind itself seemed to sigh approval. From that day, the forest declared that when winter came, all creatures would honor the night of stillness, a night of rest, when no one hunted or built or sang. They would simply listen to the world breathe, and they called Ramai the keeper of seasons. Part 43, The Night of Stillness. The first night of stillness came with snow. Flakes drifted through the air like floating feathers, softening the forest into a white dream. Ramai sat beside the fox family, Lily curled on his shoulder. Around them, other animals rested quietly, eyes closed, bodies calm. No one spoke, but somehow it felt like everyone was speaking through silence. Ramai listened. Beneath the snow, he could hear the faint rhythm of life, heartbeats, roots, water moving slow under ice. He realized the forest was breathing in unison, and as he closed his eyes, he thought he heard the faintest whisper in the wind, the owl's voice, soft and far away. You've done well, little dreamer. The world remembers how to rest. Part 44, The First Winter Without Fear. As the snow deepened, food grew scarce, but no one panicked. The animals had prepared together, storing berries and seeds in shared caches. The foxes hunted only what they needed. The rabbits shared roots from their burrows. Ramai watched this harmony unfold and felt proud, not of himself, but of the lesson they'd learned together. One cold evening, he wandered to the edge of the frozen river. The ice shimmered with starlight. He leaned close and whispered to his reflection, I used to fear this season. Now, I think it's my favorite. Lily laughed softly, because it listens back. Ramai smiled, because it reminds me that even in the coldest times, something is always waiting to bloom again. Part 45, The Dream Returns. That night, as he slept in his burrow, Ramai dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't the lonely dream of endless snow. He found himself standing in a field of stars. The sky curved around him like a soft shell of light. And there, glowing faintly, was the owl. You're still here, Ramai said, smiling. I told you I never left, the owl replied. Dreams are just doors, and you've learned how to open and close them without losing your way. She lowered her head, eyes full of affection. The forest breathes again because you listened. Never forget, sometimes the smallest creatures hold the rhythm of the world. Ramai bowed. Thank you for teaching me how to sleep. The owl's feathers glimmered, and her voice became the wind itself. And how to wake. Part 46, Spring Again. When the snow melted, it did so gently, as if the world was stretching after a long, contented nap. Streams gurgled with laughter, buds swelled on every branch, and birds sang songs that seemed older than the trees themselves. Ramai watched the first sunrise of spring from a hilltop, Lily beside him. "Everything feels new again," he said. Lily smiled. "Even you." He chuckled. "Maybe, but I think I just finally caught up to time." Part 47. The Meadow of Memories. One afternoon, Ramai wandered to a clearing he hadn't seen since before his great sleep. It was filled with wildflowers now, soft purples, bright yellows, deep blues. He sat among them, and memories came gently, playing with Milo, watching the stars, hearing the owl's first song. He realized something simple and beautiful. Every season he had missed was still inside him. Nothing had been truly lost. He whispered to the wind, "Thank you for waiting for me." And the wind seemed to whisper back, "Thank you for returning." Part 48. The Keeper's Lesson. Ramai began teaching the younger animals about the seasons, not as something to fear or chase, but as something to listen to. He taught the mice how to gather with care, the fox kits how to hunt with patience, the birds how to rest their wings without guilt. And every year, when the first frost touched the grass, he gathered everyone and told the same story. Once, there was a rabbit who tried to sleep through winter because he was afraid of the cold. But when he woke, he found that the cold had taught the world how to rest. The young ones always gasped, "Did it really happen?" Ramai would smile and say, "What do you think?" And somewhere, high above, a silver feather would drift down through the sky. Part 49. The Return of Winter. Years passed, but Ramai did not grow afraid again. When the air chilled and the first snowflake fell, he welcomed it like an old friend. One evening, sitting beside his burrow, he watched the fox kits, now grown, building a snow den nearby. The forest hummed softly, calm and alive. He closed his eyes, feeling the cool air against his fur. "It's time again," he murmured. Lily, old but still bright-eyed, nodded. "You'll sleep." Ramai smiled. Not to escape this time, to begin again. He curled into his nest, the sound of the wind a lullaby, and whispered, "Good night, forest. Good night, seasons. I'll see you when the world wakes." Part 50. The Eternal Cycle. Snow fell quietly over the forest. Through the branches, the moon watched, pale and kind. Inside his burrow, the rabbit slept not in fear, but in peace. Outside, the forest whispered in the language of wind and frost. And somewhere, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, a voice, old as time, soft as dawn, murmured, "He sleeps, and the world remembers how to dream." The snow kept falling, the forest breathed, and the seasons turned once more. The end.